Hey, it's Jake Fralix and Michael Hobbs, and you're listening to the Patriarch Podcast. On this week's episode, Michael and I discuss the highlights of our week, from how squared away bulk trash pickup makes one feel, to local specials that'll save you a few bucks. We will touch on these and like things in This Week in Review.
Ever wonder how to spatchcock a chicken? I will share with you detailed descriptions on how to get any bird table ready for the next friendly occasion.
And in case you missed it, I highlight just a few going-ons around the sports world, including the Malice at the Alice and a live player getting an invitation to the Masters.
Then finally, I will do the 5 and 5, where I rank a subject by our top 5 favorites and our not so 5 favorites. This week I will rank MLB stadiums.
If you enjoy joining us each week, please subscribe to our channel. Also, don't forget to give us a review. Thanks for listening, and now pull up that chair, grab a drink, and enjoy this week's episode and the stories shared along the way. This is Patriarch Podcast. All right. Pats Nation, this is week number 1.
Hey, here we are, Pats Nation. How are you?
Hobbsy, we survived the week. It is now Friday night.
Yep. I say we celebrated with our first podcast ever.
That is a great way to do it. Celebrate with our first podcast ever. One thing we want to start off every episode is the week in review. Always our first segment of the show. In this segment, we want to highlight, or maybe even lowlight, things that happened in our personal lives this week. So start us off, Michael. What was the highlight or lowlight of the week?
Well, I had 2, but really I'm going to touch on getting to use the meter thermometer for the first time. I'm going to touch on that later when I talk about our segment. But that was a highlight on Sunday, getting to do that for son's 3rd birthday. But the main highlight, and this is sort of just selfish to me, is Specs. I guess because we're almost to St. Patrick's Day, they brought back the Tell 'em We're Due special, or at least I call it the Tell 'em We're Due special. They have the minis, the 50 milliliter bottles of Tell 'em We're Due on sale for 99 cents each. And I a long time ago when I discovered this, I figured out that you're getting such a great deal by buying the minis. And then if you buy enough, they'll give you the actual they'll give you the case price. So it says 99, but they end up charging 86 cents each. So you end up with just a great deal. And I don't know, it's not like it's like amazing whiskey or anything, but it's just, I think it's the thrill of getting such a good deal that makes me so happy. So they brought that back. I was over there just checking it out one day and they had it, and it just made me so happy. So that was the highlight of my week this week.
I think that's it, though, right? It's the thrill of getting away with something that if other people knew about it, they would be equally as excited.
And you know that you got to think those people running that finance department are smarter than me, but I keep thinking that they're going to figure it out one day that they're losing money. And so I think that I'm like stealing from the company, which makes me feel even better.
Yeah, absolutely. No offense, Hobbs, but yeah, I would think the director of finance for a multi-million-dollar company is probably a little bit smarter than me and you combined. I would go as far as to say he probably even has his MBA. But nonetheless, what a great thing. A little bit hesitant to tell people that just because one day in the near future that might be gone, and we might be blaming the Pats out in the community for causing a little bit of ruckus there.
Or who knows, maybe one day Specs becomes a sponsor, and that's a deal they've had this whole time just to get people in the store. That Tell 'em We're Due secret. I mean, I doubt it, but I don't see a lot of people walking out with the minis, so I don't know if it's something they're not advertising it.
Well, my highlight of the week, I've got 2, both very much a highlight in my mind, might even be the highlight of the month for me. First one, and as you know, something I've dealt with for, the better part of 18 months till recently, I got a new neighbor.
Oh, that's huge.
That is huge. I've always had really good neighbors, minus this one house and the people living it. In the fall, I noticed that the house was vacant. People just stopped living there. I know there's a family that owns the entire house. They were leasing it, renting it out to their son, and then their son stopped showing up. And so about 2 weeks ago, I saw lights on in the house for the first time, and a little bit hesitant to fear that the individual was back. And I want to do a little backstory on this just so that you understand. I am not a malicious person.
No.
I pride myself, as any father does, as a patriarch of their house, of taking care of their lawn and doing the necessary things that your family doesn't have to worry about going out and pulling weeds and mowing the lawn. Well, my neighbor didn't care the least bit about that.
No, it was a disaster over there. I mean, just to be honest with you.
It-
I mean, we're not Neil Sperry, but we do like to keep our yards nice.
Absolutely. And I don't even think that lawn had been mowed in the backyard for the last 12 months. And so, great news, it got mowed for the first time this week. The new neighbors, as I'm going to refer to them moving forward in the pod, they started treating their yard for weeds this week. That's a plus. They mowed both the front and the back. They've had a 12-foot dumpster pulled up on the side of the house to what I believe is pulling out all the maybe crap inside the house and throwing it away. So definitely excited for that new adventure. And the highlight of it all is I don't have to worry about the former dogs that my previous owners had that were very malicious dogs that would bark when I was outside trying to watch a baseball game or anything, right? Or play outside with my kids in the middle of the summer on the slide. You know, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And that really gives me a sense of ease.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's a big deal. I mean, we live in the mid neighborhood. I mean, we have people with all walks of life, but we don't have many college students. And I felt like at the end of our street, we kind of had like a frat house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's huge. So, and Jake had to put up with that. And we were out at your house one time. I think we were doing a crawfish boil, and they were all out there cleaning up the whole place. And we were just wondering, like, they were pulling weeds, all this stuff, and we're just wondering, there's no way they're going to start maintaining it. Nope. 2 weeks later, weeds were back.
Back to square one. And the worst part of them doing that, and I should have told them, is they were doing that in April. Well, Lord knows with how nice the weather is and the moisture in the air in April, it wouldn't take 2 weeks for it to be back, especially weeds. We know that. So the other highlight of my week, and another thing I'm super excited to talk about, you know, in my mind, I'm always thinking about things as a dad that make me feel squared away or make me feel comfortable or put away or something that I do to mark a check off the checklist. This week was bulk trash pickup.
Yeah, that's always huge.
It is always a huge personal achievement when I'm able to rummage through my house and get stuff, preferably just junk that has been piling up that I've been telling myself that I'll throw away during bulk trash. I missed last bulk trash because I was out at a work convention, but this week I made sure the fact that I was there and my stuff was on the curb when it needed to be. You're going to chuckle when I tell you this, Hobbs, but the things that made up my bulk trash this week, one was that scooter that I got in the fall that I picked up. It was somebody else's trash. It might have been my treasure for a moment, but found out that it didn't work. Been sitting in my garage for, gosh, probably 3 months, untouched, didn't want to do anything with it.
Also, I think I saw a mattress out there.
Saw a mattress. I got rid of a queen size mattress. I got rid of the middle panel of my old garage door motor that I replaced. And you know, the most impressive thing about bulk trash pickup is the machine that can pick up anything. I thought for sure that mattress wasn't going to be able to get picked up. And sure enough, that bulk trash was able to come pick it up with no issues and get rid of it. And just like that, it was gone.
Funny story about that is that I've also done that with a mattress. And I think it was a king. And I was like, there's no way that bulk trash means I can throw a king size mattress out there. Well, I actually took the time to email the city, the guy who runs, I guess he's the sanitation commissioner or whatever. I don't even think that's what they're called, but he had an email and I emailed him and he said, oh yeah, just put it out there. We'll take it. I mean, sure enough, they took it. I was just thinking there's no way they can lift that thing.
It is truly unbelievable and something that I will continue to be grateful of, that every 2 weeks I can put something on my curb and in the blink of an eye, it's gone.
Yeah, but it's gone. I think that's great. I think that's a great highlight to I agree with you. Just anytime you can just clear out some clutter, I love it. I'm always probably before my wife is looking to get rid of some sort of toy or something just because it's just been sitting there and it's just wearing me out. So I appreciate that too, Jake.
We have an official sponsor, Hobbs. So excited. You know, here at Patriarch Podcast, we believe ourselves to be average dads, living average lives in an average town in Texas. No better apparel sponsor than Average Birds, a brand started locally by a good friend of ours, Ben Hammonds. He created this brand with one thing in mind: to celebrate the beauty in everyday life. He wanted to embrace the average golfer, whether that's even par, not happening personally, or the mid 90s. That's more like it. Personally, Average Birds has been a go-to for me for years. Whether I'm barbecuing or golfing or just hanging out, it's definitely one of my go-tos. In fact, tonight I'm rocking the Peacock. So please go online and support the brand at averagebirds.com. And as they say, come join the flock. Next segment up is Rolling Smoke. This is a segment when we get down and dirty and enlighten you, the listener, on a personal favorite recipe or cooking trick that we've learned and we want to share with you. So this week, Michael's going to enlighten us on how to spatchcock a chicken.
Yeah. So have you ever been able to do this, Jake?
I have never personally spatchcocked a chicken. I think that's the cool thing about this whole experience is getting the opportunity of this is something that I've always wanted to do. But now I've got a resource or an outlet to teach me to where I can say, hey, I've heard about that. I know how to do that. So all that being said is no, I have not personally spatchcocked a chicken.
Sure. So no, it really came about, I am amateur at best when it comes to barbecue, but I like to take risks every now and then. And so how I came to do it the first time is I was trying to do a beer in the butt chicken, which is pretty simple, but I couldn't find the metal ring that I sit the beer in, and then you sit the chicken on top of it. I knew I had one, but for some reason I just couldn't find it. So I just started kind of Googling like how I could do it a different way and honestly, I just started reading that you're wasting your time doing the beer in the butt chicken. Spatchcock is so much better and it's easier. So I just kind of started looking into it, and real easy. You just I take our kitchen scissors, the ones that go in your knives, and you're going to cut on either side of the spine of the chicken. So you want to cut it all the way down. And when you get done, you'll have a neck, and then you'll have the spine, and and you'll just have that completely separate. You can throw that away. Some people might keep that and do chicken stock with it. I don't do all that, but you might do that. And basically you flip the bird over, and then you're gonna have a bird sitting there looking like almost like a tent. And you're gonna take your palm and just push right down there on that breastplate, and it'll eventually snap, and you should have a flat bird. And so then at that point, you can oil it and season it however you want. And then, and this is where I was going to go into, I didn't have the meter thermometer at the time. I just stuck my thermometer in the breast, and then, went to 160 like you normally would on my smoker. And I use a pellet smoker, which you can use, you can use anything you want, but that pellet smoker has been a godsend in this family. And, anyway, I ended up this Christmas receiving a meter thermometer, which is one of those Bluetooth thermometers. And so I was able to try it this last weekend. I did a pulled pork for my family that came over, and I have a hard time trusting thermometers, so I'm always checking it. Well, I checked it with the pork, and it was dang near perfect, right on what I wanted. So this is where I would tell you, spend a little money, purchase yourself a meter, or you can get the other brand, and I think I have other brands, and so you can do that too. Stick it in there, and you just stick it to 160, 165, and pull it off, and it's so much easier to deal with because it's flat, and you don't have to worry about flipping it over, pulling it off. Everything should be flattened up on top, and it cooks real evenly. I would suggest trying it. And honestly, if you're going to do one, because chickens are so small, you might as well do two. I would just do two at a time. And, that way you pretty much have enough meat for the whole week. You could even freeze one of them if you wanted to. But, we've done that. I don't even think about doing beer in the buck chicken anymore. In fact, I started reading stuff about how, like, and I don't even know if this is true, but like the tin of the beer can is not good to drink or eat. Like it gets up in the chicken. So I'm just kind of getting away from that.
So here's my one question, and one thing that I always enjoyed about a beer chicken is the moisture that comes out of the beer. Are you marinating it? How much are you marinating it? Are you putting a beer on the grill with it? How is it maintaining the moisture that you would normally get from the beer that you add in the beer can chicken?
Well, I'm not marinating it. I just season it. But I think the idea is because it's cooking so much more evenly because it's flat on the grill that it's able to cook. You're able to keep a more consistent temperature across the whole bird. So it was just as juicy, and I think it turned out great. So I would recommend just doing that.
That is awesome. That is a good cooking note. Maybe something I can try in the next couple weeks while, you know, enjoying the nice weather outside, have the friends over. Maybe something I can enlighten the guests with.
Yeah, it's always neat whenever you walk in with that flat bird and then you get all the questions about, oh, how did that do? And everyone thinks that you're just like this gourmet chef, when really all you did was take scissors and cut the spine out. But it makes you look like you know what you're doing.
Well, average dad or an average Pat to a gourmet chef, these are the cooking ideas that we want to hear on a day-to-day basis. You at home, anybody who has an idea about a recipe they like to do or a cooking technique they like to try, please feel free to share that information with us. We want to get the word out on these things and ultimately sharpen all of our skills to get better cooks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, anytime you can find something that, number one, your kids will eat, and two, everybody enjoys to do, and it doesn't take forever. I think those are all things that I'm always looking for. So, for sure. We're going to pause for a little break in action. This is a great time to top off that drink. If you or anyone you know is interested in sponsoring the Patriarch Podcast, please reach out to our team at patriarchpodcast@gmail.com.
This next segment is In the Zone, where we highlight interesting things that happened around the world of sports this week. I talked about it in the preview of today's episode. I want you to talk a little bit about the UNC Greensboro upset of #1 Wake Forest in college baseball.
Wow, that's crazy, huh? And it was an afternoon game. It was like a Tuesday, 4 o'clock game. In fact, I was in my office and I always have the Twitter going just so I can keep up. And I just kind of noticed it was 1-0 UNC Greensboro. And I was like, Tuesday night. Okay, well, that'll change. Well, as the night went on, they actually ended up putting up 4 runs. And I think, and I kept kind of keeping up with it because I'll just be honest with you, I was watching the Aggie game, but I was keeping up with it on my phone. And Wake Forest tried to come back. They put up 3 runs. I think they lost 4-3. I just think it's crazy in the world of NIL how these teams are still able to keep up with them. Now, I know everyone's going to come back and say, well, it's just a Tuesday night game. Wake Forest isn't going to.
They're fourth nature.
Yeah, they're not going to throw anybody. And it was probably the World Series to UNC Greensboro. So I get that, but also I still think it's pretty amazing that it happened. I was looking at this kid that threw for Wake Forest this weekend, and what else is crazy is, like, Wake Forest has just turned into the pitching mecca of the world because I guess they have this pitching, like this science and pitching lab. And they're turning all these guys, like this guy who leaves Tennessee, University of Tennessee, and transfers to Wake Forest. Kid Chase Burns, he was pitching. He's a junior now, and he was already, I think he was a starter or going to be a starter for Tennessee this year. But he was only throwing 93, 94. Now he's throwing 99, 100, starting Friday nights for Wake Forest. And I'm thinking, I guess Wake Forest has figured it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. Just around my time in college athletics, getting that underdog vibe. Yeah, it's a Tuesday night. It's a not even a Tuesday night at that point. It's a Tuesday midday game, a matinee. But for those guys at UNC Greensboro, that's something to write home about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're going to think about that the rest of their life.
That is going to be a life changer for those guys. Just like a couple years ago when Coastal Carolina won the College World Series.
Won the whole thing.
Right? That is something those guys will remember for the rest of their life. Then, on the other end of the spectrum, for Wake Forest, you know,
Got to put doubt in your head.
it's got to put a little bit of doubt in their head, but, you know, if you're those guys, you know the talent that you have in the room. You've got the pitcher on a Friday night who's throwing 99, 100. You know, at that point, it's just a little road bump, right?
Yeah.
It's, hey, look at this. We're beatable. Look around the room. We're beatable, right?
Maybe it makes you think maybe we still got to work a little harder, you know?
Maybe we've got to work just a little bit harder. So interested to see, you know, baseball season's early on, a lot of preseason tournaments going on, a lot of preseason games here in the next month or so when we're in the full fledged of regular season conference games for those teams. It'll be interesting to see how things unfold.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm, first day for games with the Rangers on spring training. I was really excited to see that today. Won the World Series last year. So, I know Jake, you and I, we kind of watched that all summer. And, I think we're both just kind of itching
Yeah.
for it to get going again.
Yeah, absolutely. Wore the Texas Rangers hat tonight in honor of being a world champion. And
Yeah.
of course, they played today, preseason
Yeah.
game.
Won. I mean, no one cares, but they won. Just to put it out there.
Exactly.
Still winning.
Absolutely. It's a good way to start the weekend and excited to see how baseball unfolds. You know, as a Ranger fan, it's been hard to watch the last couple seasons up until this point, but it's good time to be a Texas Rangers baseball fan, and we're super excited. So I'm going to transition now to a little bit thing that I also previewed, the Malice at the Alice.
Yeah, how about that?
What a crazy story coming out of San Antonio, Texas. A melee broke out between Texas A&M Commerce and Incarnate Word. So just a little bit of preview of this storyline. Both teams coming into this game
Bad.
in dead last for the Southland Conference. Texas A&M was overall 10-16 and 3-10 in Southland Conference play, and Incarnate Word, being the home team, was 8-17 and 3-9 in Southland Conference play.
And I watched the, highlight, and the guy on the guy that just was calling the game was in shock because he said this was such a good game.
Yeah,
So overtime, both teams played so well, he was shocked.
it went into overtime. Of course, the road team in the Lions of Texas A&M Commerce came out victorious with a 76-72 overtime win. And the reason why I'm coining it the Malice at the Alice and not the Malice at the Palace is because the game was played at the Alice P. McDermott Convention Center, which is where Incarnate Word plays their home basketball game.
Sure.
So, you can go back and find the video online. But basically, in a review of the video, in the handshake line after the game, it looked like some words were exchanged. Of course, that's how it always happens. A full-on ball proceeds to break out. And the best part of the shenanigans in the video is there is this relatively shorter player. I think he's the second shortest player on Incarnate Word's team. And he is just in the middle of the fracas with both hands. I mean, he looks like a cartoon character, just looking to throw hands at anybody. At one point, a taller teammate of his attempts to throw hands or throw a punch at an opposing player and hits him in the top of the head. So
He wanted all the smoke.
he wanted literally all the smoke, and he got
all this.
He got all the smoke, that's for sure. So crazy other stories to go along with that is in all of that, the reporter goes on to say in the broadcast that a manager got hit in the face and was bloodied. A little girl in the stands was hurt. And so, of course, our thoughts and prayers go out for them. I hope to God it wasn't anything serious, but what kind of crazy mayhem.
I thought Incarnate Word is supposed to be religious. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have no idea, but I'm sure
I
they'll
mean, they might not be, but I think, I mean, in current words, I don't know, just
Yeah, I'm not sure of their religious affiliation there on that one, but nonetheless, Wednesday news came out that a total of 8 players had been
good.
suspended. 4 players, 3 of those coming from Texas A&M Commerce and 1 coming from Incarnate Word. Of course, I'm not going to say names, but were suspended 3 games. 3 players, all from Incarnate Word, were suspended 2 games, and then finally the remaining one was suspended for 1 game. But nothing like a early week, late night, last place game that leads to a complete brawl where spectators are getting hurt. So
that's not Pat Nation material. Those guys got a lot of work to do. They probably need to watch the Patriarch podcast and learn a couple of things about being men, you know?
Absolutely. And so going to be crazy to see if either one of these teams go on to make the conference tournament. But at this point, between available players and record, it's not looking too promising there. So next topic of conversation I want us to review in the zone is the NBA All-Star Game.
I don't even know. I mean, I know I didn't. I'll just be honest with you, Jack. I didn't watch it. Only All-Star Game I'm really a fan of is the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and I don't even really watch that. But I watched the Home Run Derby. But come on, 211 points.
I'm gonna just put some stats down for you.
I mean,
yes,
what are you doing?
The total score, of course, East getting the better of the West, was 211 to 186. I'm gonna throw a couple stats your way. This is the first time in NBA history that an NBA scoreboard, whether a regular season, preseason, postseason, or All-Star break, has reached 200 points by one team.
I believe that.
The most points scored was Karl Anthony Towns with 50, and of course, he didn't win it because he plays for the West. The recipient of the MVP was Damian Lillard of the Milwaukee Bucks, who scored 39. Those two guys combined scored almost 90 points. Luka, of course, the Dallas favorite, played 23 minutes with 7 points. 7 points. 7 points.
How can you score like that and then you score 40 on a regular night?
I have no idea.
When they're playing defense.
One of the craziest stats of the whole deal is there were 5 total free throws by both teams. Talk about the lack of defense.
Yeah.
Of course, that's seen in the main headline, East beats West, 211 to 186. But 5 total free throws, I mean, the defense is atrocious.
And they're not stopping the game a bunch for free throws. That's nice. But I'm sure it took a while to score 211 points either way.
Both teams shot better than 55% from the field, 35% from three-point line. There was 3 quarters that both teams combined for over 100 points, being the first, the third, and the fourth. And so, my big question is how do these guys combat it? How does Commissioner Silver, and I'm going to open this up for a little bit of conversation, but this isn't just the NBA seeing this issue. It's the NFL.
Sure.
It's the NHL.
The NFL went to just flag football.
And other organized activities up until the weekend. Right. Of course, the NHL has done their own format. The only one that really stays consistent because there's ramifications of it is the MLB game.
Right. I mean, now, I'll say you're right, but also the reason why they went to that wasn't because of the scoring. It was actually the lack of scoring, and they ran out of pitchers.
Yeah.
Like they decided they had remember a few years ago, Bud Selig had to call the game because they ran out of pitching. So I don't know. I feel like I just don't know how you tell the NBA you need to play this game hard when those guys have so much at risk. And I feel like the whole All-Star thing has kind of played itself out. Don't those guys just want to break just like everyone else?
I agree, and I think that's the thing we see in the NFL because it's late in the season. A lot of those guys are passing up the opportunity. So you get people who might be the 5th or 6th or 7th best one, but because the 1, 2, and 3 are either playing in the Super Bowl or they're just worn out, it's passing down those opportunities down to the bottom.
Well, and think about the ramifications of the Major League Baseball All-Star game, where the Rangers had, what, 6 or 7 starters? And those guys, I mean, if you remember the first half last year, they were dog-tired rolling into All-Star break. They could have used the week off, and they didn't get it, and other teams did. It didn't matter. No, they ended up winning. We won the World Series, but I don't know. I'm kind of getting to the point where I feel like, maybe they need to start talking about giving these guys a break.
And I think there's something to be said in that. Of course, Adam Silver has, of course, put some ramifications on the MVP voting, right? You've got to play, I think it's 62 games to qualify. So these guys need a break. Guys that, if they're playing back-to-back, Luka's only going to play one night in a back-to-back typically. He's going to sit out in a game that they might not be scheduled to win, right? And so, I think that specifically in the NBA, I think one of the underlining causes is because these guys are making so much money throughout the entire year, there's low reward and high risk. Players that win the NBA All-Star game only get $100,000.
Yeah, what is that?
Players that lose and they just play, so everybody on the West got $25,000. I'm sorry, but for those guys that are making $30, $45 million a year, that's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Luka could probably just do a TikTok one afternoon to make 25 grand. So
Precisely.
I don't think that that's really making him really want to play hard. I don't know. Those guys need a motivation, I guess. But also, the other question is, would a home away, hey, the team that wins, the other team gets home advantage in the World Championship? I mean, just like baseball does. I don't know. I mean, I think if you're a person that wants to win a championship, that's a big deal to me. If I think I have a chance, if I'm LeBron James or if I'm Luka and I'm on a team that I feel like we got a shot to win this thing this year, I want home court advantage in the World Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's got to be some weighted ramifications that are just not monetary benefits, but are, something down the line that could provide them.
2011, because the Cardinals got the home field advantage and got game 6 and 7 at homes.
True. I would say I'm still licking my wounds, but my wounds are all cleaned up at this point. Still in the zone here, going to transition a little bit into the college football playoff. I think we can finally say that all the problems in the world have been resolved. In case you missed it this week, College Football Playoff Committee approved a new 12-man playoff system. Hobbs, were you able to check this out?
I've been asking myself for a while now, what's going on with this Pac-10 thing? Like, we can't still give the Pac-10 a bid. And so I think this addresses that situation, right? Because now they're not getting an automatic. They're doing it from the group of 5, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, I mean, that addresses that situation because I'm thinking, what are we doing here?
Well, and that's the current 2 teams that are in it. The original format of the 12, so should have touched on this. It is now a 12-man playoff. The original format was supposed to be 6 and 6, where the top 5 power conferences, being the Pac-12 or Pac-10 or whatever you want to call them, and the craziness over there, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, we're all going to get the top finishes there. We're all going to get an automatic bid. Of course, the 6th one going to the group of 5 being the American or the Sun Belt, whatever that shenanigans is. There would have been one team that would have been about a 7 or an 8 seed that would have been on the outside looking in, but now they would have gotten a bid, and then the following 6. But because the Pac 10 or 12 or whatever shenanigans again you want to call that collapsed, it's now going to be the top 5 with the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the ACC. The champion of those conferences getting an automatic bid into the playoff, and then the group of 5.
I just don't understand how the Big 12 allows themselves, or how they get to stay as the big dog when they should be in the group of 5 too now?
I still think you've got some underlying factors in there, like OSU, who came on late last year and made it a little bit interesting. Tech, who every 5 years is going to have a halfway decent season. You might get BYU in there that's going to have a halfway decent season. What, 3 years ago we were talking about Cincy, or was that last year we were talking
You're
about
talking
Cincy?
about teams with halfway decent season. You win the SEC, ACC, Big Ten, you're a big dog.
And
you're a big dog.
I think what you're trying to say is you have a bunch of teams now in the Big 12 that would have been group of 5s, right? You're about half and half
Right.
at this point. Now, at this point, you're going to almost essentially have 2 group of 5s get in.
That's what I'm trying to say. Now you got 2.
Now you have essentially 2.
Got to take that Big 12. And you know what? If it's Oklahoma State and they go 12-0, hey,
They deserve to be in.
But if we're talking about a 10-2 BYU team that lost to, because they probably played someone non-conference, although what's your motivation to play someone non-conference if you're a team like that? Except the fact that, I guess you have motivation because if you win the Big 12, you're in.
Yeah.
And if you win that game and you still go, and let's say you don't win the Big 12, but you beat an SEC team that is top tier, you might get that at-large bid.
Yes, I agree. What's the reverse of that? So you might get a 12-0 OSU that gets in, but because Cincy might be a 9-3 team that a couple years ago would have been in a situation like this, you might have like an 9-3 Southern Miss or somebody coming out of the Sun Belt or the Conference USA. You might get a Memphis and all that, which could be interesting. Memphis has had a couple halfway decent years.
They put together a team every now and then.
And then, so I'm going to take a little bit step back on that. So 12 teams, of course, the 5 getting automatic is the group of 5 being 1 and the top 4 conferences getting in. And then the remaining 7, highest order of the college football ranking system, right? So you're probably going to get like a 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13. I would like to think if you're anywhere, statistically, if you're anywhere like a 12 or 13, you might get in, but it could be better than that. And so,
you might have to drop all the way down. For that group of 5, we've dropped all the way down to 16, 17 before.
Correct. I think it could get really interesting, which means there might be a 12 seed that doesn't get in.
Yeah.
Which
that's gonna piss some people.
Which, let's be honest, we've all been wanting this. We think it's going to make it more interesting.
Oh, it's going to be more fun on those Saturdays afternoons with our kids, We're after Thanksgiving, but we're before Christmas, and we're looking for something to do on Saturday. Hey, throw a brisket on Friday night. We've got playoff games all afternoon.
That's it. And so, first round is going to be an 18 format. 5's going to play 12. 6 is going to play 11. 7's going to play 10, and then 8 and 9 are going to play each other. Of course, the top 4 getting buys. I would like to think those top 4 are going to be the winner of those top 4 conferences, right?
It's always been the argument against it is that you're going to end up with the same team.
Correct.
But you know what? For a guy, an average, a patriarch guy like me, I just want good football. I'd rather watch a playoff game knowing inevitably they're going to lose to Georgia next week, but I got a good game this week instead of, let's be honest, Jake, we've sat around and watched the Popeyes Bahama Bowl just because that's what's on. And
the Cheez-It.
Yeah, or Cheez-It Bowl. And
Duke's
Pop-Tart Bowl because that was what on. I'd rather watch, hey, and, I'm going to cross my fingers, but I'm not thinking it's going to happen, but maybe I'm watching A&M host a first-round game at Kyle Field. How about that? Wouldn't that be exciting?
That could be crazy. So, going to continue on here. Of course, the semifinals and the final, those 3 games are going to be like normal, New Year's Six Bowl. So, I'm interested to see how that plays.
First round's on the home campus.
First round is on the home campus. That's correct. That could be crazy. That could be really interesting.
Because you got to be playing. You might be playing a game in December at Penn State where it snows.
You could.
It could be snowing in a playoff game.
You could.
That's like NFL type stuff.
I'm going to give you one more fact, and we're going to move on to the last sport news of this bit. 4 is the magic number. If you get in at a 12, you win 4 games, you're a national champion.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of games.
It's a lot of games. You're going from 13 games to 17.
And when we in this age of NIL, and now we want to start talking about profit sharing, how do you compensate the players for those extra games? What incentivizes a running back and on the 12C team, knowing I'm eventually probably going to get beat out by a Georgia in the next round? So it motivates him to, I'm going to risk this draft pick to play for you. How much are you paying that guy?
Better be a couple zeros at the end of that guy.
I mean, why am I risking this knowing next round I'm going to get my brain?
That's right. That's right. Gonna transition a little bit to golf. Some crazy news coming out of Augusta, Georgia this week as Live Golf's own Joaquin Niemann got a special invite to the Masters. He is the only Live player that isn't either a previous winner or currently still in the rankings to get into the Masters this year. So there's a total of 13 Live players getting in, and 12 of them have either won the Masters or under the current ranking system. Of course, Live doesn't get ranking points towards the official world golf ranking. He is the only one that is outside of that ranking. So interesting stuff for him. Of course, you know, I don't know how much you watch the Live. I tune in every once in a while because I'm a big golf guy, but he has been absolutely on fire this season.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. So, like with the Masters, you've either had to want, like if you're on the PGA Tour and you're on the ranking system, you get an invite. But what about those guys that haven't won the Masters but left, but they're still good golfers? They went to Live. They don't get in. Go.
They don't get in, and that's another point that I put on here is Taylor Gooch, a guy who won 3 times on the Live last year and probably made north of $20 million between his individual and team winnings, is sitting at home that weekend of the Masters watching Joaquin Niemann play with an invitation.
Good for him. I hope he, well, I'm sure they don't. Well, I don't know what PGA thinks about it because they're merging soon, right?
That's the word. There's some golf gods working to merge and work some things out between them, but it's been a little bit slower than kind of anticipated, and so nothing has come to light yet. They've had a couple table conversations, but still working on the details. I think eventually that's the hope for them to merge and to everybody to play nicely and get along between the DP2 World Tour, which has a couple players that come over and play on the Masters, and the Live, and the PGA Tour. So it'll be interesting.
Sure.
But again, you know, Joaquin Niemann's been absolutely lighting it up this season, not only on the Live, this year on the Live with 2 tournaments. He's finished in first place. He won in a playoff beating Sergio Garcia in Mayakoba, where he shot 59 the opening round. Following tournament, the Live Golf Invitational Las Vegas, he finished tied for 30th, so not so good, but a crazy stat in the fall playing on the DP World Tour, which they're allowed to do under the current Live rules. He played in 3 tournaments and he finished first, that he won in a playoff, tied for 4th, and 5th.
That's pretty good. He's really good.
Crazy stat. So
good luck to him.
Looking back at
Where's he from?
He's from Chile.
Okay, well,
he's a Chilean.
Well, Chile boy, good luck to you. I hope you do well. I'll be. I love the Masters weekend.
Yeah, everybody does. It's you know, it's right around the corner. Everybody starts gearing up for it. So, of course, his previous results in the Masters, he finished in 2018. He didn't make the cut. Did not play 2019 and 2020, and then 21 finished tied 40th, 2022 tied 35th, and then 2023 tied for 16th. So good luck to him, and it'd be interesting to see how that unravels.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Interested in coming on the show or suggesting a topic for our team to discuss our rank? Feel free to submit ideas, suggestions, and topics at thepatriarchpodcast@gmail.com.
We are now in our weekend preview where we talk about what we've got going on this weekend. Hobbs, what's on the radar?
Yeah, big weekend. No, not as big as it's been, but you know, it's going to be nice weather. So I've got, my boys are 3 and 4, and Jake's got a girl that's, she's 3, and he's got a son that's 2. So we got kids that are real close. So, we're going to, I got a little work I actually have to do tomorrow morning,
And then tomorrow afternoon, I think we're all going to get together and, grill and chill. We got some games on, so we'll probably watch it. I'll let the kids play. But, and then on Sunday, just recharge, get ready for work for the week. 2 more weeks until spring break. So just that final push towards spring break. And, I mean, not a crazy a lot. I did read that. I do read Neil Sperry's thing every week. He sends out an email if you subscribe. That I'm.
This sounds like a good dad email subscription.
Yeah, this is something we probably should talk about in depth. Like we might have to have our own segment about Neil Sperry's tip of the week. But he said you should be cutting off that top layer of dead grass just because it got frostbitten. So I don't know. Might do that. I looked at my grass today. I didn't really think it needed it. So that's kind of where I'm.
Yeah, that was my list of weekend things. Of course, talking about getting together tomorrow with the kiddos, enjoying the nice weekend, watching a little bit of sports. We're planning to cook some dogs and some hamburgers and just kind of fellowship with some of our friends. But I've got a lot of work to do in the yard. I've got to pull weeds. I've got to get out there and get the broadleaf and all that other stuff that grows up that you're like,
You
I just want to go away.
and pull it. You like getting down.
I am a manual laborer. Pull that with my fingers. I don't get out the roundup. I don't do all that. I'm all about spending a couple hours. I get in the office on Monday morning and typically my thumb, pointer, and my middle finger are a little bit sore just from really attacking the root of any broadleaf that I can see.
You're a young man, so I appreciate that. Hey, I don't, look, I'm going to be honest with you. If it's a broadleaf weed, still use the spray. I'm going to use the spray because it's going to kill it. Now, I don't pull out the Roundup. I'm not a Roundup guy. If it's something that I got to pull up, I'll pull it up still. But I try to save my back. Jake's a young buck. He's young 30s. I'm almost pushing 40. So I can't be wasting my back on every leaf. If I can take a shortcut, I got to do it at my age. You'll understand one day, but at this point, I've got to take shortcuts when I can.
Hey, it's not that bad. Of course, I know we talked about it, weather being nice. Of course, the green grass under the frost-bitten brown grass is starting to show up, and it's always a little bit bittersweet. I really like the cold weather, but the sad thing is it's just kind of the beginning of the end, right? It's the beginning of the end in terms of, you're about to go 7-8 months of pushing a lawnmower on Thursday afternoons and 98, if you're lucky, 105-degree weather. It's just kind of a very sour moment where you're kind of fortunate that it's nice out, but you also know what's very soon in your future.
Like that you'll never, ever stop sweating.
Yes, you know that. And so, I'm a very much a push non-propelled mower type guy that I'm really putting in the work, burning the calories, but 'tis the season. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I'm with you. I used to be a summer guy, but now I feel like, and we've talked about this, now that I have kids, it's hard because you can't get my youngos. When it's 100 degrees, they don't last long out there. So you start, now that I have, like I said, young kids, I kind of almost dread summer because you're basically trying to find stuff to do with them indoors all the time.
Yeah.
So, no, this is the perfect time of year, but you're right. You feel the incoming.
This is our final segment of the show, as we call it 5 and 5, where we rank a subject, brand, or thing and give our top 5 favorites and our not so top 5 favorites. And well, everything in the middle is just kind of a mute point. So this week, of course, in honor of baseball season being right around the corner, we talked a little bit about it in the earlier episode. Spring training is upon us. Hobbs, you're going to rank your top 5 and your bottom 5
Sure.
MLB stadiums.
Sure. Yeah. No, fun stuff. I know I will say that Jake kind of threw this on me, but I actually feel like I feel like I've been to all but 7 stadiums. So I have a good idea of what I like and what I don't like. And it's not going to shock anyone. But we're going to just start with the not so top 10 first.
And so the lowest 5 teams, so the 5 least favorite stadiums that I like, and we're going to start with number 26, or that's going to be Chase Field out in Arizona. And the only reason why I say that in Phoenix is because it's pretty boring. There's not much going on out there, and it just looks like a regular old boring stadium. Nothing to write home about. I'm not a fan of it.
Here's my question. Does the pull out beyond center field do anything for you?
I think it's a gimmick. It's their gimmick, I guess, but it doesn't do anything for me. Now, then again, I kind of think up in Frisco, I think they've got the lazy river out there in the outfield. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, I guess it does something for me, but I've went to that game and I've been in the field and I just wasn't very impressed. That's just flat out. Just wasn't very impressed. I guess the pool is kind of cool.
Here's the only deal about that. I think it's cool. I'm not going to get in a communal pool at a baseball game. I'm probably going to pass on that.
No, anywhere where my body's going to be able to be shown on national TV, not something I really want pulled against me. So, no, that's not going to be my bag, baby. I'll tell you that.
So 26, Chase Field. Who's in 27th spot?
Yeah, and these are all personal preferences. I have friends that like this stadium, but I just hated it when I was there. Milwaukee Stadium, American Family Field. Once again, boring. It's a lot. And if we could have gone down the top 6, I think I put Enron as maybe 25 because these are fields that are like they feel all the same. Yeah, they all have retractable roofs, but besides that, it's just very plain Jane. Nothing exciting going on. And I didn't have the best experience there either. So personal experience also plays into that as well.
So 26, Chase Field. 27, American Family Field. Who's in the 28th spot?
28th spot, I've got the Guaranteed Rate Field. Now, this is Southside Chicago. Hadn't been there myself, but it looks awful on TV. I've had people tell me that it's not great, and it ranks pretty low on a lot of people's lists. Just, once again, one of those older stadiums, built in 91, so at the end of that concrete era. Not my favorite, and I don't like the team either, so that goes into it too.
29
Sure.
spot.
And that's real easy. The next two, you could have ranked them in any
Yeah.
way you want. Tropicana Field is number 29. Haven't been there, so I couldn't rank it 30. Feel like I can't rank it last if I hadn't been there. And then Oakland Coliseum, I've been at that stadium. It's just one big concrete jungle. One of those 80 multi-purpose stadiums and just all out ugly. That's probably why they're trying to get away from there and go to Vegas.
Absolutely. Of course, the change not coming this season, but the change coming in the very near future.
Yeah.
Oakland relocating to Vegas.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think that's going to be good. Like Oakland, there's not much to offer.
So Oakland's 2 professional franchises between baseball and football are now relocated.
It's sad though, because they had so much tradition out there. They just can't get people to go to games.
Yeah. Of course, I put this in there as the least favorite honorable mention just because I know it's going to ruffle some feathers. Minute Maid Park.
Oh yeah.
What are you going to do? Toot your own train horn?
I'm just not a big fan of that stadium, and I don't understand the theme. They're not, like, what is the deal with the train?
Supposedly, it has something to do with that being a former train station down there.
Union Station.
Talk about a stadium that used to have an unleveled playing field. And center field used to have the the flag poles in the middle.
What is it? And then the incline, like you had to go up the hill.
It sounds like they're having a really big identity crisis.
Yeah, that team has always just had issues, and they'll continue on with it. But luckily, we don't have to. Well, we're on top at this point, so we're looking down on them right now.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we've done our least favorite.
Yeah.
Let's transition a little bit into our top 5, starting with number 5.
Yeah, these are everybody's favorites, I think. And to be honest with you, if you haven't ever been, Jake, I suggest you go. Wrigley Field, number 5. Great place to watch a baseball game. I've watched it from the stadium, and I've even watched it from the buildings that look onto the stadium. I've gotten a seat there before, so really great place and great atmosphere after the game too. That factors in. Bar scene is great afterwards. Everybody loves to go to Wrigleyville, so great. Love that place.
Wrigleyville is definitely a bucket list item for me. Go to Wrigley Field and then go down to Wrigleyville and hang out, have a couple cocktails, and just enjoy the kind of atmosphere down there. So 5 regularly filled. Who's bringing it in at number 4?
Four is Target Field, and that's in Minnesota. Now that might be a surprise to people, but that's personal preference. I loved going there. Number one, when you like we've talked about before, when you're coming from 100-degree summer and you get to go to Minnesota where you're having to wear a hoodie at night, and that's always nice. Beautiful ballpark, great fans. And one thing that was really nice that I thought was great was the second deck is an entire like bar scene. Like you can walk up basically anywhere and watch the game. And so I like being able to grab a drink and then just watch and just be able to stand in the concourse and watch the game. Really cool. I suggest seeing it. It's a nice place.
So 5 Wrigley Field, 4 Target Field, 3?
Fenway Park. Love Fenway Park. Love it. Just, you can't beat Sweet Caroline and being able to go there and do all the fun stuff, and everybody's just so into the game. Just makes you feel like you're an American when you go to Fenway Park.
That's awesome. Definitely a bucket lister going to the Green Monster and everything else that Fenway entails. 2.
Yeah, Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Camden Yards is a beautiful place to watch a game. Wouldn't suggest hanging out in Baltimore much after dark, but great inside the stadium. Went there in my early 20s. A beautiful place. I love the skyline background, and then you gotta love the warehouse in right field. I mean, the warehouse look it's just unbelievable. It's a beautiful place to watch a game.
All right, bringing it in.
Yeah,
The number 1. Who are we doing?
It's got to be Oracle Park in San Francisco. The bay right there in right field. Come on, like you can't beat it. And everybody remembers our age remembers watching Barry Bonds hit the ball into the bay. And so now I would suggest if you go, you got to make sure that you sit in the sun because it gets pretty chilly there. Even during the day, I went on a Sunday. And thank God I had seats in the outfield where the sun was. It got chilly, but yeah, San Francisco is a beautiful place to watch a game. Probably my favorite spot.
Awesome. Well, thanks for bringing it this week with the 5 and 5 rankings there.
And if we have any Pats that have any different opinions or maybe some tips, email us, tweet us, whatever, and let us know. I'd love to hear.
Here at Patriarch, we like to support good causes and events. That's why I want to take a moment to highlight and share information with our Pats. One nonprofit I want to highlight is the Wished Events. The founder and CEO, Caleb Davis, is a good buddy of the podcast and us personally. In fact, him and his brother, one of my best friends, are guys I've known personally for the better part of the last decade. Just over a year ago, Caleb started Wished Events. I'll bring him on to talk in detail a little bit more about his story, but as a young cancer survivor and a Make-A-Wish alum, he has a passion to help support fighting childhood cancer in any way he can. After doing countless volunteer hours and wish granting for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, a door was opened for him to get more involved. That door led to him starting his own foundation, Wished Events. Through his own organized events, he is able to raise funds, awareness, and help promote and grow all childhood cancer foundations. His annual goal is to host several events with a monetary benefit going straight to these organizations. He has shared with me that the next Wished event is the 5K 1-mile walk, set to be held in late April. Other events to follow include the Wished Events Golf Classic held every fall and the holiday party in December. One really cool note to highlight: they've only had 4 events thus far, raising more than $70,000. It truly is a great thing that Caleb is doing, so mark those calendars to get involved or even volunteer. For more information, you can email Caleb directly at wishedevents.com. Thanks for listening to this week's show. We hope you enjoyed and are considering becoming a full-time listener, or PATS as we call them. Tune in next week as we continue to talk about the things that govern the everyday dad: sports, grilling, and general life. And of course, feel free to subscribe to our show by hitting the like button or giving us a rave review.